Hello and good evening. We are in Parashat HaMeraglim. Parashat HaMeraglim is known to be quite of a harsh one, but as we will learn when it comes to the spiritual process or the matters or the things that this week would makes us encounter with. But I think differently. I think this parasha have within it an extremely profound idea that we need to follow through, and once we're following through this idea, it is safe for us to know that we are actually on the right path of doing this spiritual growth and process. It's all a matter of being aware and in tuned in the with the story itself, and as we learned in last week, in the fact that the pshat, the stories of the Torah, are there to ask from us to go deeper and to dive to a more profound and idea than only the pshat reveals us. And so this portion, in a way, is called the portion of the Meraglim. The portion of the Meraglim in English translation is the portion of the spies, or the spy. But the word spy or spies is not anywhere to be found in the scriptures or in the text itself, as we can see. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Send out for yourself men who will scout the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the children of Israel. And so we can see that scout is very different than spy. To spy something, to scout meaning to gather information about something. And it's important for us to see that there's a difference between the two. So Hashem asks Moshe to send people to scout the land of Israel. Now, also when we talk about the word land, we need to follow through the Zohar understandings or the Zohar interpretation of the word land. The word land, according to the Zohar, refers to a wish, a want, a will, a desire of some sort, rather than the actual land or the soil or the earth, the earthly meaning. And therefore we are to notice that the dressings of the Torah here are extremely important, because scout is to go about it as tourists, to enjoy the smells, to enjoy the sights, to enjoy what this new place can offer us. And the word land refers to a will, as some sort of a will or a desire that we have. So this text is a great opportunity for us to notice that the story, the pshat, is only one layer, that underneath it or above it, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to say, is a different. We're talking about a different story, and we're talking about a different notion and a very profound ideas. We need to make them inhabitants in our own mind. And so what do we want? What do we desire? What are we aspire for? This is what the land, in a way, is trying to tell us. This is what the story is trying to tell us. And there are even more profound question. Who are the figures, the inner figures inside us that we send in order to scout this place, this will, this wish, this want, this desire? Who are the delegation of representatives within ourselves that we send when we are about to scout a new will or a desire that we have? And the text says that you shall send one man each for his father's tribe. So again, here we have the request to send representatives from the tribes. Again, some sort of a high-ranked position of people, very respectful individuals that would become our delegation of truth regarding this land. And truth is a very murkav thing. It's a very it's not always what we think and what we observe and what we feel that is actual truth. The truth is objective, and it's not for us to really know or understand. And so after we understand that we now have the delegation of people which we need to send in order to scout the land, meaning the will, or of some sort, or a desire that we have, then we receive from the scriptures the base or the origin of the direction we need to go from. Now go up this way in the south and climb up the mountain. That's the Moshe words for the people in order to better make them understand the form or the way of their responsibility in this scout of the land. And so south is also known by the Zohar as the place of chesed, the direction of chesed. Chesed, we all know, it's the flow outward, chasadim, meaning the sharing, the giving, the contributing. It's also the midah in which Hashem gives his graces, his favors, his gifts. It's the midah of expansion. It's the midah of 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 making something more and more and more. It's a divine gestures towards Bnei Israel. So from this place we are to start walking when going to scout our will, the land. And also we know, and also Rashi says that the Negev, the place from which Bnei Israel actually started their journey, is the place from geographical point of view when looking at Israel, is the place of the desert, is the place in which everything is dry and there is a lack of living, a lack of life. There is no life there. The life is missing. And then it's very interesting to notice that when we are on a journey of pursuing or reaching to a place in which we can have life, the place from which we start will naturally be a place where we lack this thing, where we need to fulfill this need or this wish that we have. From that place in which we lack life is exactly the place from our starting point for this journey or position to receive the life or to reach the place that is that we would be able to have life in it afterwards. And so from the most dry place that is wiped out of water, from a place of desert, from a place of nothingness, of wilderness, from this place, from a place that lacking life, is the place that we are going to start our journey in receiving life, in going to a place where there is life. And so from this place, then we need to climb up the mountain. Now, the mountain represents, as we all know, in a way, a goal or a higher place we need to somehow work hard in order to achieve our position on or in. And so a mountains always refers as a place that elevates us and enable us to look further, to have a wider perspective from which we can better see our surroundings and the place that we want to go to, meaning this desire that we wish. We need to start from the point of which we have nothing, the point of nothingness, the lack of everything, into a mountain from which we would be able to perceive better this thing or this place or this want or this wish that we have. And so then from this place, from the mountain, from this profound point of view that can educate us in means of where we are going to and what is the preferred way for us to walk in, then we need to look at the land, at the wish, at the will, at the desire. What is it? Where does it comes from? What is the true essence of that will? You shall see what kind of land it is, and the people who inhabit it. Are they strong or weak? Are they few or many? So Moshe asked the tribe's representative, in a way to check out that land, and not only the land, to check out the inhabitant of the land. Inhabitant of the land meaning, what are the reasons, whether internal or externals might be, that can make us not reach to this goal, that can stand between us and this promised land that we are supposed to inhabit, or to inherit, or to conquer. So what are we about to meet when we're coming face to face with our wills and our wantings and our desires and our aspirations? Do we hold ourselves the belief in the power of God, in the power of His ability to bring us to this place we need to be in? Do we believe in the divine presence? Are we like Yehoshua ben Nun and Kalev ben Yefuneh, saying good things about the country? I'm just saying, or whether we are like the rest of the 10 tribes that had worst thing to say about the land. We always need to aspire. This portion teaches us that we always need to aspire to become the two representatives that says the good thing about the land, the good thing about the will, the good thing about the divinity of our process and our growth and our journey, continuous journey into the promised land. And what then, there is the question of what is the soil like? Is it fat or lean? Are there any trees in it or not? Also, when we consider or thinking or looking at our desires or our willings or our wishes, are there would they lead us to self-satisfaction? Are they true desires? Are they able to bear fruit? Now we talked about the what mountain refers to, and now we also have what trees refers to. Trees refers to or represent a narrative of something that can bear fruit, something that can not only not only have life in it, but can also make life, make some sort of extension of living. And so, and this is the higher goal. Is our wish is only a wish as its own, standing alone, disconnected from its environment, or whether this is something that can afterwards can bear fruit into a higher condition. And then, in case we answered all these questions, then there is the request that you shall be courageous and take from the fruit of the land. Now there is another notion or another idea in this portion that that Hasidism talks about in the Lubavitcher Rabbi. They basically say that the delegation of the tribes were, in their essence, in their core, were they were God lovers and extreme believers. The thing is that they saw the fact that they are going to leave now the beautiful, miraculous way of living in desert, just in order to protected and nurtured by the divine presence wherever they go, to whatever they do, whether it's in the meat or the man, the food was giving to them from the sky. They had the honor clouds surrounding them. They had the pillar of smoke, the pillar of fire. They had everything. They were protected and nurtured by a divine presence, and they needed nothing. They lived a miraculous way of living. So what for? To go now and to scout a land, to go into earthly matters, to live day to day hardships. What for? What do we need this? So they feared, and that this is why they said this land is eating its people, meaning, or its inhabitants eating its people, meaning they were afraid, or they were fearing that the land will swallow their spiritual presence into day-to-day doings and toils. And their fear of we cannot go up is a direct continuation of this perception that they had. And they didn't want to leave the desert in a way. They didn't want to leave this miraculous way of which they were living. And so it turns out, therefore, that the spies, so-called sinners, were right in some of their assumption, basically, but they misunderstood the divine will. And now it's important point here, because when we talk about the land, it's not necessarily our will. Our wills are continuously changing. We can think or want something this day, and 3 days from now we would want something completely different. 10 days from now we would want something the opposite for the completely different thing that we wanted before. And so we know that our wishings and willings, our desires, our aspires, they are constantly changing. But we're talking here about more profound will, the God's will. We know that the land of Israel is one of God's name, and land is a will. So now we can do um, the exact fitting. We are talking here about the will of Hashem, the divine will. It's not necessarily always will be our will, but it's a divine will, a more profound will that we need to scout and follow and trust to take us towards a promised land. And so also, when we come to the end of this portion, to mitzvah tzitzit, it says, "You shall not wander after your hearts and after your eyes, after which you are going astray." And we all know this sentence. We all say it every day, and it's interesting because all this portion is talking about whether we are capable of doing more than we think we can, right? The delegation of the heads of the tribes, they were looking at the giants, at the Nephilim, at the Bnei Anak, at the people that were in the land of Israel, fearing them, dreading them, saying, "No, we cannot go there. This land is eating its own inhabitants. This land will eat us alive. We would never be able to conquer it." This is what the delegation said. But there is here in the last mitzvah in this portion, and not by chance, and the exact like the cure for this illness that we have as human beings. Because we need to become courageous, we need to become extreme believers in the divine entity, in its ability, strength, and power to deliver us to wherever we want to go, and not to rely on what we see, because what we see can mislead us and can be not veiled when once we actually go face to face and to front this. And also what we feel is not necessarily an objective truth, because what we can feel feel of fearing, feel of dreading, but it's not about us, it's not about our power, it's not about our strength. We always need to remember that the power and the strength of the divine is the one that responsible on everything that we do and in every way that we look forward to. And therefore we are not to rely or depend on our own capabilities, whether it's in on what we see or what we feel, rather than the true essence of the or the aspect of things of the divine will, the promised land. And so this week there might be things that will overwhelm you. You might find yourself in situations or places which you don't even know from how to begin this. Where do you get the powers to do this? How will you be able to go face to face with this challenge that you suddenly will face? And this portion asks you, please be the divine delegation of Bnei Israel, but remember to be Yoshua bin Nun and Kalev ben Yefuneh. Be the ones that are believing in the power of God, in the strength of the divinity, in the true way, in the promised land, in the divine essence of things. And you will be able then to go through this week, which is considered as a harsh one, but again, as you see, change your perspective, and you can find miraculous ways and brilliant ways and beautiful ideas and concepts within the Torah Pshat, but at its layers. So have a good week. Enjoy this portion. because it's an extremely educating one. And I'll see you next week.